All right, everybody. Welcome back to the Seven Figures or Bust podcast, the number one podcast in the world for growing your insurance business. This is episode 75. I'm your host, Christian Brindle. I'm joined with my co-host, as always, Glenn Shelton, and we have a special guest virtually in the building this morning. Introducing Mr. Josh Youngs, the Medicare machine. Medicare peace of mind, insurance peace of mind, everything that he's got going on. Good morning, good sir.
Also, I want to say too, might be the best beard we've had on the show besides
Probably
myself.
So.
Josh, representing the bearded community this morning. I appreciate that. Yes.
I like it. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Well, thank you for being here. So the topic that we have today, usually the way we do the show is, we'll have a couple of topics that we'll go through. The main topic today is scaling your business, right? How to eliminate inefficiencies, how that you can really kind of find a model that works and then build it upwards. And we thought, perfect person to have on the show today with you, to have that conversation with. Glenn, when we talk about scaling, I want to start with you. Where does your mind go in terms of what's really important for somebody to focus on with that?
I think having repeatable processes in place, right? I mean, I think anybody can do one thing one time, and that's for all parts of the business, So I think having something that's repeatable and then ultimately repeatable for other people, right? Mm-hmm. So I think it starts with like figuring out how to make it super repeatable. I say the term a lot. Man, I'm blanking on it as I say that. Watch. like doing rinse and repeat.
There it is.
Rinse and repeat. I kept thinking laundry in my head, and I'm like, it's not laundry, Glenn.
You just have to think. You just have to remember laundry.
I'm like, yeah, that's what my internal monologue was. Laundry, Glenn. Say laundry. I'm like, it's not laundry.
Shout laundry as loud as you can.
Rinse and repeat. Rinse and repeat is what I was trying to say. Something that, you start by doing that for yourself, and then ultimately you can hand that off to other people. They can do it. And Josh, I think, is one of the kings at really that. So, and here's the other thing I wanted to mention too is, the average agent, we've said this a million times on the show, is the average agent only writes 4 or 5 apps a year, right? So if you're doing more than that, you're doing more than what the average agent is producing. So Josh, when it comes to scaling, and obviously you've scaled your business a ton, what's something that comes to mind first and foremost?
Well, I thank you for the kind words, but
yeah,
what I've done is I've scaled to the most of what one individual can do. And now I'm in the transition of scaling my agency. And so I don't know, I'm more, I believe I'm only allowed and qualified to teach what I've already done. And so my focus would more be on taking what you can do with a one-man show, which is, we're talking about the average agent. The average agent is a one-man band or one-woman band.
Correct.
And then how can I scale that out to the maximum capability? Right. Well, number one, I would agree. You have to have, whether you document it or not. I was bad at documenting it. So I would say one pro tip in going into it is document everything early, create spreadsheets, create Word documents against your will if that's not your strength in the beginning, because again, you're the one person show, and so you've got to do stuff that you're not good at, and that's how you get better at it. But yeah, I think in retrospect, looking back, I could have grown farther, faster. I mean, I grew pretty far and fast as it was, but I could have gone farther and faster had I introduced delegation and automation sooner. I was brought into the industry by a really old school, one of the old heads from the earlier days, maybe 2 generations ago in the business. If you will. And so
really old,
do a direct mail drop, walk and talk. The old school pound the pavement. And so that's really what I did in the beginning. Had I had the resources that I have now, that I'm giving agents now, when I started in the field, I would have been an exponentially different path, even faster growth than I had. But yeah, I think scaling is a lot about first formulating your system and process. Because to me, I think the big mistake I made was I created a non-duplicatable system. So I scaled out a system that I then couldn't replicate with other people unless I found a unicorn. And so instead of having a system that everybody else could adapt to, or I guess rephrase that. Instead of having a system that adapts to the people, I had a system that I had to find people that adapted to my system. And so my big challenge for me and what turned the corner was finding people that are smarter than me in areas that I'm not as good at. So that would be in the data side. So now I have on staff someone who's a Go High level expert and a Facebook marketing expert, which has changed everything. Now we're building out our own CRM and building out your own CRM and doing things like taking in-house, even the marketing as well, learning how to do Facebook marketing, learning how to do Google marketing, learning how to do TikTok marketing, anything other than the old school grassroots or what I hate.
Right.
Grassroots to me, I don't know if y'all ever seen them, but roots for grass go like 2 inches, like rolls and stuff going down the highway. Those aren't very deep. What I want are deep roots. I want fruit trees. And the thing about fruit trees you have to understand is building an orchard of fruit trees that bear fruit is wonderful, but you got to wait. Like you can't advance the first part of the process, which is waiting from seedling to producing fruit tree. Yep. And so sometimes, just like weeds, sometimes weeds go through the cycle of growth and flowering and producing fruit quicker. And so you might get lucky and find a referral location or partner that produces quicker in your career. And if you do lean into that, there's nothing wrong with niching out. In the beginning of my path to scaling, niching was really important. So yeah, I think finding a niche, finding a system and process, but then to me, the most important thing that I think most agents don't do is the one advantage I believe I had over everybody else was very early. I had a brand, I had 3 core values. And so I had a theme. I had a guiding North Star that kind of guided everything that I did, which made creating a process easier. And if you have if you talk about like a motel 6, Econo Lodge and all that, it's the same bed and chair and shower setup that the Ritz-Carlton has, but the experience is different. And the cool part about our industry, there's no price point difference. And so if every hotel was the same price point, where are y'all staying?
The one that gives you the best experience.
So how do I create the Ritz-Carlton procedure and process into my system up early? How do I create a brand? Because people trust a brand. Like there's a reason they have to have Small Business Saturday. Like they have to encourage us to shop small business because it sucks. They don't. The first thing you walk into small business shopping is the first sign is no refunds, no returns, no exceptions, and we're closed on Thursday for Carolina's birthday party. And the shopping small experience sucks.
That's so true. That's so true.
And so, think about it. If you went to go shopping for a TV and the store you looked up online, you pulled up and it's somebody's house. For all those agents, no disrespect to anybody working out of their house, because I started working out of my house. But part of scaling for me, especially, was hiring an assistant. And believe it or not, my wife was not going to allow me to have an assistant sitting in the living room working with us.
That's always wild to me when I hear those.
I think one thing that's interesting about this conversation that my mind goes to is Josh, you see these agents, Glenn and I see them all the time, where they don't want to grow beyond being a single person, right? And I guess to each their own, but there's a lot of people that wonder why they're not growing and they don't want to hire any help. Glenn has got into some passionate arguments with people about hiring people and the value of it. But in addition to that, right, they never move out of their garage or their basement or wherever their office is, right? And I think a good conversation kind of relating to scaling is, a big to me, and I think you just hit it right on the head there a second ago. It's scary, right? I think a big reason why some businesses scale and some go far and they duplicate themselves and they grow vertically is because they're willing to put themselves into the lines of feeling that uncertainty, to feeling that fear, I guess, if you will. I remember the first time I hired my first employee. At the time, it was like equivalent to what my mortgage was, like that the monthly cost of it was. And I remember it being really scary. And I remember like telling myself, I'm like, oh, this is like taking on another mortgage. And that really freaked me out, just thinking about it in that way. And yeah, I think there are a lot of agents out there that they will never bring themselves to go over the hump and go over that feeling, that feeling of fear, I guess.
Yeah, it is fear. I think you hit it on the nose right there, Josh. I think a lot of people are scared, but there's also silly things because again, Christian and I have worked with thousands of people over the past decade collectively. And there's going to be people that you have to fire. There's going to be people that didn't work out. There's going to be relationships that get burned when you're working with this many people over the course of time. So I think the rose-colored glasses that some people bring to it, where they think, I'll hire one person, they'll be a perfect fit, I'll keep them forever, right? That's where, and then it doesn't work out, and they're like, well, I'm never hiring anyone ever again. I'm only going to make my niece or my nephew or my wife.
Yeah,
my wife. It's always the wife. It's always the wife. She's going to get licensed. She's going to be my assistant, which for some of you that works, and hats off to you. Let me tell you.
It's
Hats
not
off to
scalable,
you.
though. It's not, if we're talking about scaling, though, that's not scalable. There's a ceiling to that, and the whole point of scaling, like you don't want to take the elevator into the roof, you want it to stop before the roof. So when if you're going to scale, you want to have like the true open ceiling, no ceiling opportunity that this truly is. But in order to take advantage of it, you've got to let go of your ego. I've had to let go of a lot of my ego, that only I can do this as good as I can do it, which that might be true. Yes. There's probably a lot of stuff that I do better than anybody I could hire could do. But the reality is the customer, as long as you have a good procedure and process in your training, the customer doesn't notice a big difference as long as you hire good people. And so, hiring sucks. Firing sucks even more. I suck at it. I'm the worst, admittedly, at, you're supposed to fire quick and hire slow, and I think I hire quick and fire slow. I'm not sure, but
do the opposite.
Yeah, I've had situations where letting go of somebody was the best thing I could do, as much as it hurt and as much as it might have damaged that relationship. Business is business, and I think your ability as a business person to separate home and business, and that's part of the reason why you want to get a dang office. And so maybe you're not ready to hire a person yet. Maybe your first step is just get an executive suite at the Regis near you, or whatever it is, where you're toe in the water, but now you have an official place where you go to where it's business time. Like for me, even having an office in my house, I could put up signs, I could lock the door, I could do whatever I want, but my kids and my wife and my dogs don't give a darn whether or not I'm on the clock or not.
They're always there.
You can curse on the show, Josh. It's okay. Yeah. We give you permission.
No, right now I had to lock my office door because I know people in my office. If I didn't lock it, inevitably an LOA or my assistant, somebody's going to come in here and ask me a question. And so that's part of it, is understanding that we're all human, and I don't care how good you are at multitasking. I don't care how committed you are. I don't care what kind of cool Zen space you've created in your house that you call your office. There's a psychological difference, and I will stand on this hill and die on this hill between working from home and working from your office. And people don't want to work for you if you work from home. Now you're opening up an environment where you're talking about remote work, which God respect the VAs and all that stuff that you guys do. I think there's a really good place for VAs, but if you're building a face-to-face and you're trying to open an office and you're trying to own your own territory, it's impossible. Now, if you're building a over-the-phone empire and you're working inbound calls and you're working Facebook and all that, then you don't necessarily, you can kind of have a remote network of staff, and there's not necessarily a big need for the brick and mortar. But even if you don't have the brick and mortar, I would highly recommend having a separate space as part of scaling, because it starts to help you make what I would call the business-like decisions. The difference between the cash flow, because in the beginning when I was running my own business, I looked like the business like a piggy bank. Like, how much money can I pull out each month to give myself the maximum amount of cash in my pocket? So basically robbing the business in the beginning to now where it's a calculated investment. I don't look at things as a cost. I look at the thing as what I'm investing into this lead campaign. I'm investing into this infrastructure. I'm investing into hiring LOAs, whatever the investment is. On some level, I got to have a return in mind, but we also got to understand that, like planting a seed in a tree, we got to give it time to grow. So scaling on a big scale requires more than you.
Yeah.
There was something you said earlier I want to go back to. And you're absolutely right. Virtual assistants are incredible, but if you're trying to build a big brick and mortar office,
it's not enough. It can't be enough.
Hologram technology is not quite there yet. Maybe we'll get there.
Close.
The virtual assistant will be like a robot walking around. But there was something you said earlier I want to go back to, and Christian and I have had this conversation many, many times. So you're talking about scaling. You're talking about how like you would need to look for a unicorn that could fit into the system that you created for yourself. So I think the opposite approach, and it always kind of hurts your mind to get to this point where it's like you have this incredible system, it works so well, you're writing hundreds of applications on your own pen, and you're like, man, I can't find an agent to fit into this system. And so then you realize you have to like reverse engineer it almost, right? It's like, how can I take someone that's totally average? How can I take someone that isn't going to, put in the time or effort that I put in, but they can come in and crush it because the system works so well? I wanted to spend a minute and talk about that, especially the LOA conversation. There's so many people in our audience who watch this show who want more information about LOAs. We get messages all the time like, how do I hire LOAs? What sort of system can I put in for LOAs? So let's talk about that as, again, both of you being massive Medicare producers on your own pen and then going to this system of having LOAs. What was that like, having to reverse engineer that?
I'll just dive in first.
Yeah.
I mean, I think for me, a lot of what you said is looking at it from a perspective of like, it has to be more plug and play. It cannot be, because I think Josh hit it on the head very well earlier when he said that, what I'm doing on my own isn't duplicatable from the standpoint of like, Josh is a great example, right? Like he's branded all the time, everywhere he goes. He's the master of talking where your feet are. We talk about that all the time on the show from time to time. An LOA probably isn't going to have that same kind of dedication, right? So that's just a small example right there. And so I think you need to look at it from a standpoint of like, how can I make this an easy step by step process to where I can plug somebody in, right? I can allow them to follow a system and a sales process to be able to get from A to Z. And I think a big thing for LOAs is how can I make the prospecting part of it as easy as possible for them? Because I think what separates someone that's going to do well as an independent versus someone that can do well as an LOA, a lot of independents don't make it because they can't prospect. They don't know how to get in front of people, right? And so I think when you're hiring an LOA, oftentimes they're not going to come with that skill set, and I think you have to find ways to get them easy business. The system is important, but like I think if you're getting them in front of people often, consistently, and they don't have to, prospect the same way an independent has to prospect, I think that's probably a more winning formula for the average person that wants to be an LOA. Because the person wants to be an LOA, they want to be able to sell, they want to be able to make good money, but at the end of the day, they want to be able to clock out and go home. They don't want to they want to live the same life as an independent or an agency owner or anything like that. So to me, I think that was the biggest thing is like, finding ways to just make things more plug and play from, getting in front of people, having appointments, lead flow, all of that stuff, to the sales process, simplifying it, and everything else in between. So that's kind of my thoughts.
Yeah, That is probably the most important thing. I'm again early in that journey. I had one LOA for the last probably 18 months, one at a time. And what I would say is I don't recommend that for a couple of reasons. One, it didn't challenge me. Two, it didn't challenge them. It didn't give them any camaraderie. It didn't give them any challenge. It didn't give them any competition. So it's kind of like having one fish in a lonely aquarium. You got a fish. I don't know how productive the fish is going to be. You're definitely not going to create a school of fish from one fish. And so I would recommend, if you're going to do LOAs, the first thing you need to do is get yourself to a financial position where it's okay if you don't make any money this year. Because that first year, when you let go of the production, that was probably the hardest thing for me this year. I think I've done 6 apps this year, which is weird. And both psychologically and financially, it changes the ball game. Now I have 6 LOAs, and in 2 months we've gotten them from doing nothing to where we're doing over 180 a month from the team. And so we've got people we've got a couple over 45 a month, got a couple over 30 a month, and so it's a testament to what I would say is the hard lesson I learned, which I agree, Christian, because when I first initially tried to scale, it was like 2 years ago. And what I try to do is scale with my referrals, because at that point I was big, bad Joshua who had a 0 CPA because everything was free money. But the problem with that is it's kind of like Disney World. Like, you don't go to Disney World to see Mickey Mouse, or you go to Disney World to see Mickey Mouse, not Chuck E. Cheese. And so the problem with using referrals to scale is the referrals are coming to Joshua Young's. They're not coming to one of Joshua Young's. It's kind of like going to see the doctor and they give you the PA. Like, some people are okay with that, but the general consensus is you start to dilute the high quality of what the whole purpose of the referral is. And you turn it back into a lead instead of a referral, because the whole process needs to connect with what they described the experience to be, which was you work with Joshua and everything works out great. And then you go to work with Joshua and they're like, yeah, well, you're not going to work with Joshua. You're going to work with so-and-so. And so that part of that was a hard lesson for me to learn, because I still, to this day, it's on average 40 to 50 referrals a week that come to my office. And now what I've learned to do, so this is a pro tip, if you do this, if you're really good at referrals and you want to scale to an LOA, what you got to do is you just set the first appointment with both of you. So it's me and the LOA. I spend the first 5 minutes edifying the LOA and telling them it's okay, because anything they do, I'm overseeing, and yada, yada. And then I can pass the baton that way. And so I've learned to use my referrals, but it's not a scalable thing. I can't just say, hey, we hired 3 more LOAs, get more referrals. It's really hard to go back to that fruit and keep squeezing it and keep squeezing it and keep squeezing it. Even if you're good at referrals, eventually people are like, look, I've given you everybody I have. And so you exhaust the audience, which is why you need new blood, right? So for me, the big thing for LOAs and what I've been successful with now is removing that. And so one thing I've been training in my boot camps this year is what I call the 8 hard parts. So the first hard part is get the lead. Second hard part is get the lead on the phone. Third hard part is get the appointment set. Fourth hard part is get them to show up for the appointment. Then you get the easy part, which is write the app. And then that's where the job ends for the average agent. And for most agents out there, that's the whole process, and that ends. But there's 3 more things in there that you should be doing, which is retention, and you should be doing referrals, and you should be doing cross sells. And so the whole point of an LOA is I try to put my agents at number 4. So they don't have to generate the lead. They don't have to get the lead on the phone. They don't have to set the appointment. They just have to get them to show up for the appointment and then write the app. And so now what I've created now is what I used to call it a lead machine, which I had for a while, which is awesome. But a lead machine sucks because agents don't work leads. And so what you do is you spend a lot of money generating leads, and you get a lot of frustration because you hand a bunch of people a bunch of free leads. You pay a few bucks or whatever, and then they don't close jack shit, because in reality they called them once, they didn't answer, and they said that's a bad lead. And so if you can figure out a way with automations and delegations and now AI changing the game, leveraging those tools to take a lead and put it through the other hard parts, to where now your LOA is teeing off a ball that's teed off with an appointment. And now we have an appointment machine. And I keep warning them, if I can figure out how to do a closing machine, you guys are all out of here. Right. But the reality is, the cool part, there's job security, because the people on the other end don't want this thing to be automated. They don't want to AI their way through this. Just like I don't know how you guys feel, but if I go into Taco Bell once in a while, my kids beg for the cheesy roll up, and we like to go in the lobby because I like to just sit there with my kids and enjoy that little moment. But inevitably, every single time, they have those damn kiosks and they have humans, and I will stand at the damn counter and I'll wait 10 extra minutes to talk to a human rather than interact with their dumb kiosk. I don't want to automate that part of the process. And so just as we go into this next, we're exiting baby boomers now, and we're going to enter into Gen X. And so part of the process is your innovation into the digital side, but the people still want the human touch. And so as you automate and delegate, I guess that's my pro tip, is figure out a way to keep the human element in there and don't discount the number of human touches you need. But yeah, for LOAs, getting the ball teed up where they're working appointments versus working leads, I think that was the game changer for me.
There was so much gold in there.
Yeah, very good.
If you're looking at scaling always, and I also love that piece of it too, because the thing is, I love technology, I love AI, but I am similar to you, Josh, in that sense where, like, a lot of times I do just want to interact with a human. You know, if I'm trying to get to A to B, I want to make sure they know exactly what I'm trying to order, what my problem is. So it can be frustrating sometimes. So it's like, I think it's an art how you can incorporate technology into your systems, into your process, into your business. How can you incorporate these automations where it's beneficial, it is giving a great experience, it's not hindering? Because I think that's where some people get lost. They're like, all right, AI, my AI caller, you call in, you're talking to my AI, I scaled, unlimited scale, I win. Well, it's like, if the quality of that call, even though you just scaled, if the quality of the call sucks, it's like you're just shooting yourself in the foot. But Christian, before we get too much further, do you want to explain today's sponsor for this episode?
Yes, I would. Guys, episode 75 of the 7 Figures or Bust podcast is brought to you by the 7 Figure Medicare Agent Summit, which Josh will be a speaker at. Front and center. Super excited to see him bring a ton of value to the stage and to the audience. If you guys don't have your ticket already, and I mean, sure, you see me and Glenn every day on the show, but if you're loving some of just the bombs that Josh is bringing on this episode today, you can get more of that, and probably even a little bit higher end than that, live and in person at the summit. So make sure to get your tickets. There's not a ton left. Salt Lake City, June 23rd, 24th, 22nd being the arrival day. So make sure you get the tickets to the 7 Figure Medicare Agent Summit.
I've got the link. I've got the link below this video, you guys. Grab a ticket while you still can.
So shifting gears, I guess, back into the conversation, because I love this conversation. I think it's so good. I think it's almost like figuring out where it's appropriate to automate things, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's always like a big debate for agents. Like, one that I seem to always get pushback is, like, we have completely automated all mail that goes out to our clients, right? Like birthday cards, thank you letters, all of that stuff, we've completely automated it. And the thing I've always heard from agents for years is like, well, I handwrite all mine. I do it every month and I get so many referrals and I have such a good retention rate. But then, like, I look at us and, like, for most of the time when I hear people saying that, I'm like, we have a better retention rate. We get more referrals than you. And we don't do that. We don't spend a second handwriting cards. And I get so much pushback on that from agents because, so, like, in my opinion, my mind, that's something you should automate, but maybe something you shouldn't automate is like someone answering your phone, like a really good, high quality person to answer your phone for your clients, right? Like, right. I think there's a thing about, like, calling into a business and someone answers and, like, it's a real person, right? It's a real human, someone that's invested into your issue, your question, whatever it is. So, like, yep. And I'm sure there's a million examples like that, but, like, I think a lot of it probably is figuring out what is appropriate to automate, and also, but at the same time, you don't want to automate anything that would take away that personal experience that the client feels when they work with you. As you work with your agency, work with your LOAs, whoever it might be. Yeah. And I think like Glenn said, it's almost like an art form, kind of like balancing that and kind of figuring that out a little bit. Because we've tried all kinds of things under the sun to automate things, and sometimes we'll come back to the table and we'll be like, I don't know if that was such a great thing for us to automate,
Right.
reduce the client experience, kind of hindsight being
Right.
2020. And other things were like, I can't believe I ever spent a second on this. like writing thank you cards. Sorry, someone's gonna get mad at me. Someone's gonna throw a rock at me after this podcast. But like, I think there's a lot of examples like that.
Yeah.
Glenn, thoughts on that?
So, it's funny, as you were saying that, I had an experience yesterday with AI that I thought was pretty positive. My son, I mentioned this on the show the other day, my son got a 3D printer and he was looking at trying to have like a custom file created. And so I was messaging someone about creating a custom 3D printable file for his printer. And the first interaction was AI. It was a chatbot, right? But it was a quality chatbot. It was transparent. That's important to me too. It explained it was an AI hi, I'm an AI personal assistant. I'm here to help you, and I can get you connected to the right person. I just need to ask you a few questions, right? So there was just, so transparency about it being AI, and then there was some qualifying. And then it put together, it was kind of cool. It put together this like brief summary based on my answers, and then brought in the real person. And it all happened pretty quickly too. That's the other part of it, is the responsiveness, right? Is like, how responsive is the actual person? So I felt like it was a very fluid process. There's nothing worse than, again, we all have limited attention spans. If connecting me to that real person had taken more than 1 to 2 minutes, I would have been, yeah, exactly. I would be gone, right? I'm gone, or I'm freaking out in the chat and I'm smashing my keyboard. So I think it is an art form, and as technology gets better, it's like, how do you stay on top of this? How do you implement it? What does that look like? And what Josh said earlier, I think is super important, is like keeping customer experience at the very top of it, right? Making sure that they are having a really great experience, because we could automate all sorts of stuff that would hurt customer experience, but then, we're taking our hands off the wheel, right? We don't have to have certain employees do things, but the customer experience, I know for Christian and myself, is super important. I know for you too, Josh.
Yeah, absolutely. I think for me, automation, it's really important. You want to automate processes, not the relationship.
Yeah.
So I understand the sentiment that you say, Christian. I don't think I would throw pitchforks at you, but for me, things like the thank you, things like the birthday, there's certain things, like I think of it like a relationship with my mom or a best friend or people that I like what do I do in between the human interactions that we have? What stuff am I doing to keep the relationship alive? And so anything that we communicate via text, so like as an example, I've been going around in these workshops. I've stopped them now. But one big thing I've been talking about is, like, for me, you should have at least 95 touches per year per person. Everybody like, oh, what do you mean? That's like, you're like harassing people. And I'm like, no, you got to break it down. Like, again, with any big number, you got to break it down to what the reality is. 95 touches a year is less than 2 a week. Now, if you just have 2 times a week where you're pressuring them about insurance, yeah, eventually they're going to tell you to go away. Take a photo. I don't want to hear about insurance anymore. But
yes,
as a quick example, what if you were to do something of the week, a joke of the week, recipe of the week, tip of the week, something along those lines that just gives you another touch where you're following up with value in the relationship. Like I think of my brother and I. One of my brothers, literally, if you were like to look at our text message chain, it's like 85% movie quotes, back and forth movie quotes, and like old school movie quotes, right?
Yeah.
So that's our whole relationship that maintains we that's the part we automate in our relationship, but we don't automate going to dinner. We don't automate meeting for birthday. I don't automate my client appreciation events. I don't do a virtual event. So I'm not going to do a Zoom client appreciation event. I'm going to do, you either show up in person and we all have a party, or you don't. And so I think that's a big thing when you're talking about automation is that some people try to automate the relationship, and you don't want to do that. They don't want to talk to a bot. Like they'll deal with a bot to get to a person. That's
Right.
If you think about it, we tolerate a bot. We don't want a bot. We don't like, oh, thank God,
Right.
the bot. What we do is we try, how do I get past the bot? But the bot is the space age gatekeeper. And you need a gatekeeper, though. So if you don't have a gatekeeper,
Right.
I promise you, once you get one and you train them properly, they will keep people from wasting your time. So
let me ask you, Josh. Let me ask you
Yeah.
this. So 95. So where did the 95 number come from? Just out of curiosity, like what made you come to that number?
Well, I've gone around the country the last 5 years, invested a shit ton of money, going to all kinds of different training. Excuse my language, and I apologize in advance.
You're good.
No. We
No.
works all the time.
Yeah, so we
A
do.
metric ton of money into self-growth development and trying to pick the brains of the smartest people in the industry, not just our industry, but the sales industry. Like
Yeah.
I'll look
Yeah.
at what Coca-Cola does. I'll look at what American Express does. I'll look at what Disney does. I'll look at what everybody's doing to try to see how are they offering a better member experience. Because the thing I know about my vertical that I'm in is that we're all charging the same price point. And so if you
Right.
can innovate your member experience even 2% better than what everybody else is offering, like I said,
Right.
I have clients that I've had leave me without me knowing that come back because the other agent sucked. And
Sure.
the experience they offered wasn't the same as what they got when they worked with me and my staff. Because really, at this point, you guys, all they do with me, what they were doing with me, is they'd meet with me during the actual appointment. I would write the app, and that was it. Exactly the entire interaction at this point of clients that I work with now versus in the beginning, the clients that I work with, and some of I'm losing now. So there's that painful process when you transition out of the field. You're going to lose some of them, even some of the ones that you thought loved you and that you loved them back, because the member experience goes down. Again, if they don't feel loved, they go elsewhere. And so that's the part of automating and delegating. So I would say the same thing about delegating, because I'm not delegating or I'm not automating my client relationships. I'm trying to pass my 3,500 clients to my LOAs. And so that this AEP, I don't have to do anything but help my team grow. And so that, again, the scaling part of it, it sucks. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Every part of the growth, it's kind of like shedding the skin of a snake. I imagine that doesn't feel good. And growing pains when you have growth plates as a teenager and all the growing hurts. And so, yeah, the scaling part and automations you have to have, but automate the stuff that either you or your staff shouldn't waste time doing. Don't automate the relationship. Don't try to automate the system and the process or the experience. Just automate the in-betweens so that you don't drop the ball. That's my best piece of advice for automation is keep the relationship out of automations.
I have a question for you, Josh, and I just kind of popped into my head. A lot of agents struggle when they are producers and they've spent a lot of time producing, they've written a lot of business. They struggle with moving into the phase where I would call them more of the agency, running the agency, right? Taking a step back, they're not personally writing business anymore. For me, I know that was a big struggle for me when I really took that step back. And it took several years before I really got it to where it is today. I'll never forget, like I told this story.
Like an addict in rehab, you guys, let me tell you. It was like, put the drugs down, Christian. It's okay. Not today.
I
told
the story at an event recently, and I'll never forget. It was probably 3 years ago now. Glenn calls me before we merged. He's like, "What's up? What you doing?" I'm like, I just ran 2 back-to-back appointments, wrote like 8 or 9 policies total, something like that. And I'm like feeling myself. I'm like, yeah, back-to-back appointments. And Glenn's like, well, why? What are you doing? I was like, what do you mean? I'm like, I'm writing business. He's like, is there not someone else in the organization that could do that? And I was like, so for me, that was a big struggle for me because for basically a decade, all I knew, the thing I knew the best was being an agent. Was that a struggle for you as you've started to make that transition? Has that been tough?
Well, I'm in year 3 of it, and I finally did it.
This episode of the Seven Figures or Bust podcast is brought to you by the Seven Figure University. SevenFigureUniversity.com is a culmination of Christian Brindle's and mine's educational videos that we have developed over the past 2 decades of combined experience in the senior insurance space. There's more than 250 videos, hundreds of hours of content that can help you become a top producer or a top producing agency in the senior insurance space. We're talking about videos of how to work with specific carriers, how to do different types of marketing, such as seminars or Facebook advertising, how to generate content in the niche to help grow your business, how to grow an agency, all sorts of things. There's so much value in this. It's unbelievable. Christian, what do agents need to know about Seven Figure University?
Seven Figure University can best be thought of as an agency blueprint in a box that's put together for you that brings you step by step in every facet of building a successful seven-figure insurance agency and lays it out all in front of you so you can follow along. Whether you guys need help with marketing, whether you guys need help with branding, whether you guys need help with hiring, training, standard operating procedures, systems and processes, automation, you name it, it's covered in this course. Not only that, you get access to my weekly training calls every Thursday that go from January through the end of September on a week-to-week basis. And you can attend those live and ask questions live. And then, of course, the recordings are put into the university afterward if you can't attend it and make the live training. So there's just so much value. It's the gift that keeps on giving, and it's a great investment into your business to kind of keep you up to date on what's going on, but also kind of point you in the right direction in various things that you're struggling with.
Some of the best training you'll be able to find, you guys, in one spot for one price. Go to sevenfigureuniversity.com and learn more.
Let's get back to the show.
So I was supposed to do it 2 years ago, and then I was supposed to do it last year, and then this January I did it.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a more specific question on the same line, because I've watched Christian go through this very closely. What do you do when you write all these apps? What do you do when these clients reach out and they say, I worked with Josh, I want to talk to Josh?
Well, then they talk to Joshua, and then Joshua explains to them, like, the blessing in disguise I have is I use my heart attack, and I just say, hey, my health has changed, and I'm not going away. I'm not retiring. I'm not like gone. It's like, if you really, really, really need me, I'm here. However, I'm building out a force of people that are personally trained and mentored by me. And I would say 90% of people are perfectly fine with that explanation, and they stay with us. And they actually, like my two favorite things to teach people to get more referrals is you either need to get them to feel sorry for you, or you need them to be behind you or get behind your mission. And so it really feeds into that feel sorry for me, because I mean, you got to be a jerk if you're going to be mad at somebody because they're slowing down for health. And so I've kind of leveraged that on some respects, and it's true. I need to get in shape. I need to focus on my health. I need to do these things. I just need to get this separated. There's about 1,200 of my 3,500 that are just diehard, like holding to my leg toddlers. And I created that. That was what I wanted. That's what I trained them to do, because in the beginning, when you're building, you're like, just call me. I'll do everything because I have all this time and I don't have any money.
Right.
And over time, as that relationship changes and you have more money than time, that's when you have to change. But just like any other relationship, like you weren't communicating with your clients along the way that, hey, things are changing. It's just, in some respects to them, it's like a shock. And so you got to be prepared. I anticipate losing 10% of my book. So I'm prepared to lose 350 clients in this process that we'll replace in half a month. Because the momentum that the LOA team now, based on the training I give them every day, based on the momentum I give them every day, we're very quickly going to be at 500 apps a month, and we're going to very quickly get to 1,000 apps a month, because I'm going to scale this thing out. Like, watch out, because there might be a legacy piece of mine, satellite office in an area near you soon. We'll have LOAs in your.
We need the Utah border wall.
We need
Utah border.
There's no room here. There's no
Utah's full, Josh. Cut the stream right now, guys. Cut the stream.
Can I mention something about that I think is such an important topic, right? Like,
yeah.
So for me, right, like, and this is, I believe this is probably what you guys will experience as well in a positive way. You have the expectation you're going to lose 10% of your clients, right? I did too. When I started when I was making that transition and I started being less available. Nowadays, I'm not available at all, pretty much. Like I'm not even on the menu if you call the office. And we had our best retention AEP ever in percentage wise this past AEP. And this is what I was thought to myself. I was like, all right, we're going to lose this many people, but I'm like, it's okay. We'll make it up, blah, blah, blah. This is what I learned. It's a fraction of what you think it's going to be, of what you're going to lose, because 10% might be upset that they're having to work with other people from time to time, but not all 10% will leave. 10% might threaten to leave. They'll be like, but then they don't, because they know that they have it as good as they're going to get it anywhere. And so what ends up actually happening from our experience is like, you have a handful of people leave, a much smaller percentage. Maybe it's like 0.5%.
It's like the ones you don't want too.
Yes, exactly. It's always, it's the ones that you would pay to leave.
Please don't. Please, I will set you up with any other agent. Like, please don't call the office again. Yeah.
You find like your biggest like competitor in town, like someone that you're like, ooh, this guy.
You find someone you don't like, and that's who I send my referrals to.
I put them in an Uber. Be like, you're going to their office. We're gonna Uber you to their office.
But no, I think that's the thing, that something I hear from agents a lot when they are going through the process where it doesn't even have to necessarily be about sales or anything like that. It could be as simple as doing their customer service for their clients, and they bring someone in to do their customer service, and they're like, well, everyone's used to dealing with me. I'm like, everyone has gone through this at one point in time that I know of that's built a big agency. Majority of people. And all these agencies are still standing. They're still standing, which means they didn't lose a bulk of business. And if they did, it was a much smaller amount than they actually kind of anticipated. So I think that's, for anybody that's listening, like that would be my message to you about, if you're going through this, like you're probably not going to lose as many as you think you are. I think our minds by nature are good at formulating the worst possible scenario. We're like, oh man, this is going to happen. And a lot of times it's not as bad as we think it's going to be.
Don't focus on the loss of client, focus on the gain of time and the gain of opportunity and the gain of, I like the adage, you got to let go of what you got to get what you want. So that's what happens.
It's a completely different skill. So to be a top producer, to be a really great salesperson, the skill set is very different than being a great business owner, a great CEO. And that's, again, I've gone through that same process, and it is painful. It is painful because you're used to this mindset of like, if I need more revenue, I just go sell. And you just keep. And so then when you're transitioning into more of a management role, it's a management position, you can have levers, marketing levers, you can have a sales team, you have all these different resources essentially at your fingertips, but it's a completely different ball game when you're managing a business versus and that's why it's so difficult. That's why so many people don't do it. We talk about the average producer only producing 4 or 5 apps a year. Well, think how many producers are actually able or capable of scaling a team out. That's got to be a fraction of that number, right? Because most of them can't even produce to generate an income, let alone operate a business and manage a team. That's completely different.
Yeah, you can't teach what you don't know, right?
You can try.
You can try. You can try.
Some people do it. What's
that old line? Those who can't do teach.
Teach.
Yeah. Yes. Start a course.
Yes. Josh, I wanted to ask, do you have any events coming up around the country? I think did I hear you mention earlier?
I shut them all down. I was full bore. I was on my board back here, one of my goals this year was to relaunch the Medicare Machine Factory workshop because I shut them down for a year after the heart attack. And honestly, I was having a lot of fun. I really enjoyed doing those. I was getting really intimate crowds. A couple of them had 3, 5, had 10, 15. I like those 15 or less crowds because they really dig in, roll my sleeves up, and really have a workshop rather than just like a canned training presentation. But my daughter is 8, and the last month when I was leaving for Florida, just look on her face, and she asked me, why do you have to keep traveling? And so, that was probably the big motivators. I've spent so much time in the last 3 years just handing my shit out for free. And literally handing out my shit for free. And I can give you guys like 10 or 15 examples of people that I've put at the top of leaderboards under other hierarchies, doing my workshops. But, I guess I'm going to get a little selfish with what I got, and I'm going to take my sauce internally and grind with my team and try to build out my team now versus what I've been trying to do, honestly, was give back to the industry that changed my life, which I feel I've done that now. I hit every goal I could have on the individual side of things, got every trophy I wanted to get, I got every check I wanted to get, all that stuff. So now I'm really just trying to focus. I've got this, it's a really cool experience. Basically all my LOAs are what I call kids because they're all in there. Like we have 19 to 28. And so it's like I have this new fun coaching fatherly mentor role that if I just keep doing all this travel and all this other stuff, there's no momentum in my training because then I'm gone for a week at a time and I'm this and that. And so, I mean, am I going to say I'm never going to do workshops again? No. But really, in reality, I'm going to be on stage at SWAT, giving some sauce, and I'll be on stage at 7-Figure Agent Summit, giving some sauce. Outside of that, the rest of this year, I may do a Zoom or two here and there just because I love doing it so much. But outside of that, I'm not really looking to make money off of the workshops and stuff anymore. What my next big thing is going to be is launching this CRM and marketing machine. And so we're going to put a retail one out that, no offense to all my friends in the industry, but we're going to beat your prices and we're going to beat your product. Because now I've had a chance to work with some of the top CRMs, and I've had them for several years. But I think they're charging more than they should. And now that I've seen behind the curtain on the upcharges, so beware to all you CRM users, you might ask to know how much markup is there on everything. Because when it comes to go high level, everything, and I mean everything, has a possibility for a markup. And so that's part of what I do best is transparency to this industry. I love to pull the damn cape off of people that are operating what I would call what's the damn, I can't think, Wizard of Oz. So they're running the Emerald Tower where it's some guy in a booth with the fucking wheels and shit, making you think that they're doing some shit. When in reality, like I said, so that's my next big thing is bringing a CRM to the market that has the automations built out, that has the connection to the marketing side, that doesn't just give the bullshit. Frankly, all the stuff I've paid for out there now, and now that I have a professional in my office that does go high level and does Facebook marketing, I've been given the most basic biatch marketing templates and Facebook ad, like you guys understand. If you go to somebody who's crushing it, and they're not going to give you the damn recipe that they're using. They're going to give you the 4 generations ago recipe that worked a little bit. And so you just understand going into stuff that anything that you're doing, the sooner you can get it in-house, the better it is for you, better it is for your team, better it is for everybody. Because we need more mavericks in this damn industry that are rising above what the norm is. Because frankly, we had this cool cycle like 5 years ago where this I thought we were gonna have this like crescendo of collaboration, and then this like weird wall hit and everybody kind of went back to their corners, and it's turned back into, for lack of a better expression, it's like the everything's been Grant Cardone. And everything's about how many people can I get in my membership? How many subscriptions can I get? How many people can I run up the ladder of? We get them at $249 to our event, and then we roll them up to 10,000, and we roll them up to 5,000, and we roll them up. Hang on a second. Oh my
We're
gosh.
we're coming up on the end of the hour, so I want to
Yeah.
be respectful of everyone's time. But what you just described, the weird, we were all collaborating. That
We
people,
were.
I do feel like there was some. Do you, Christian? Would you agree
we were
with that?
so
Do you
close
feel
to
like
having a
something
really
was?
cool
Yeah.
What
kumbaya.
happened?
I would
What
totally agree with that because I
Well,
feel
Yeah,
like
I do too.
I feel like it was a kind of a little bit before, during, and a little bit after the COVID time period
yeah.
that it was like,
Yeah.
you know, there was a lot of collaboration. You know, there was a
Everybody
lot
wanted to
of
help each other.
everybody,
Didn't
COVID
matter.
created the collaboration.
Yeah.
everybody hanging out,
Yeah.
everybody talking, like,
And then
you know,
money ruined it.
yeah. And
Yeah.
you know, it's too bad.
That's
It's too
crazy.
bad because
I remember that.
I feel like the space was in a really good place. I think, you know, it was kind of, I call it the boom of the online communities almost,
Mm-hmm.
because the online communities started to boom. And I think it was so new and it was so fresh and it was so fun, you know, because I think a lot of us were so used to like being in our own little corner, if you will, and, you know, in our neck of the woods, and, you know, not interacting as much with other people in the space. So I think for a lot of people, that was it. It was like, oh, wow, you know, it's John in, you know, Minnesota, and he's doing this. This is so cool, you know, like, but it is too bad. It is too bad because I definitely seen that. And, you know,
That's crazy.
Some people sold their agencies, you know, they're part of like, you know, I call it Crips or Bloods, you know, they're on one side or the other.
And that might be part of it too. The gang,
I think it is.
The gangs in Medicare.
At the top, there's collaboration, but there's not collaboration. So if you talk about the top dogs in the industry, they communicate basically out of kind of like countries, out of respect, like we could destroy each other, so let's just not do that kind of thing. We all have the power to sue each other into oblivion. We all have the power to do this and that. And so to me, it's like a bunch of, they're the size of countries, and that's where the peace comes from, is because of the threat.
Yeah, I agree.
Love this.
I agree.
I have my hand on the nuclear launch button, but I'm not going to press it today. Do you agree? I also agree.
Why does an agent have to post anonymously talking about their contracts? Because they're afraid of being sued into oblivion by somebody who has exponentially more money. And so that's why nobody fights these no competition, no solicitation, no bullshit stuff. And that's why people don't do releases and stuff. It's all tied into that power hierarchy at the top, which, like I said, to me, I'm all about the ground. I like to be on the ground with the agent. I want to build. I don't want a conglomerate. Do I want to sell for $100 million? Yeah, I would love to do that. But I want to do it my way. So I either do it my way, or I get to whatever I get to doing it my way, doing it what I consider the right way. Not stepping on necks, not how many people can I recruit, but how many people can I develop? How many people can I turn into monsters? How many people can I create that are doing 500 apps a year, that are having everybody else go, how do you do that in AP? Or even like even my own uplines at times. Because like last year for me, it was a high retention year. I had a ton of disruption in Colorado. I had a big portion. I went from like 780 clients on my Humana book down to 350. So it was a massive movement year. And so like, you want to discredit me for the number of apps I wrote because I had to retain a bunch? I don't care. You can talk shit about me. What I know is in 6.5 years, I built a book business of 3,500 clients. And I talk to people that come to my workshops that have spent 35 years and don't have that. And so
100%.
Again, run your own race. Don't compare yourself to others. That's my like closing remarks, as I know we're almost out of time. You know, I love this industry. I'm so passionate about it. I know I'm very polarizing. I acknowledge that. I kind of say some stuff that are outside of what people call politically correct and all that at times. But I'm a good guy. I love people. And so if you're out there, whether you see me out on the road at a show, I am going to go to Medicarians too. So if you're at Medicarians, let's look at that. I know I have RBF, so I know I have resting bitch face. I am really friendly. If you just come say hi, I am not that mad. I'm sitting there thinking wonderful thoughts, and everybody else is thinking, geez, why is he so mad?
What's his problem?
But
Does he hate me?
Beautiful industry. People like you guys make me excited. That's why, you know, Chris, and I was willing to sponsor your event as much as I did, because of all the stages I've gone around and been on in the last few years, yours is one of the few that I could say was not a pitch fest in any way, shape, or form. There was no pitch. The only pitch was value. And so
Yes.
that's where I like to be. I feel the same way about SWAT. Although there is a little bit of pitching, but the only pitching he does is to sell you on the next year's ticket. And so I'm okay with that kind of pitching.
We do that.
And maybe in the beginning, the first few SWATs I went to, they did some of that, but it's been eliminated. And so those are the conferences I'd like to go to. Those are the ones that I want to support. Yeah, and if you are out there and you're struggling and you're new or whatever, reach out to me. I'm not going to spend 20 hours on you if you're not in my downline, but I will spend 40 minutes with you, helping you get over a hump or get through something. And so, awesome. I'm not out of the business of helping others that aren't on my team. So reach out, but otherwise, hopefully I'll see you at an event. It's like 7 Agent Figure Summit. Like, buy your ticket. What are you waiting for?
Oh,
I love it. I love it. And really appreciate your time this morning, coming on, sharing all the value that you did, as you always do, and appreciate your support at the event. We're excited to have you there. We're excited to have you on stage, and, excited for a lot of agents to be able to, kind of hear your message. And I think it's really necessary. So we appreciate you.
Likewise.
My final thoughts, guys, on this episode, I think is, man, so many things to choose from. There was a lot of great conversation on this episode. My final thoughts are, I really liked the conversation about keeping things personal with your clients, not automating the relationship. Like Josh said, I think that's a really great message. So I think there's ways you can do things easier in your business. There's ways to work harder or work smarter, not harder. But there's other things that you want to do. You don't want to lose what made you special for the client in the first place. And so, just be always thinking about that. I feel like when you're evolving, I guess, as an agency and over time with your processes, and make sure to check Josh out. Make sure to follow him on all platforms. He puts out a lot of great stuff, and make sure to get your ticket to the summit. It's my final thoughts. Glenjamin.
Great episode, you guys. I honestly think there was so much gold, especially if you're at that point in your career where you're like looking at transitioning to becoming an agency owner. You're looking at hiring LOAs. Like, this was such a raw conversation around that, and I love that. So much great value. So yeah, super excited about the 7-Figure Medicare Agent Summit. This will be our biggest 7-Figure Medicare Agent Summit yet. We already crossed the line of the headcount from last year that we're anticipating at this coming. So this will definitely be our biggest 7-Figure Medicare Agent Summit we've ever had. So super excited about that. Get your ticket today. One of my final thoughts that I keep thinking about that Josh said that I love is when Josh said, when a teenager is growing, it hurts. He's like, growing hurts. Like, I feel like that could be on a t-shirt, like, growing hurts. And it does. I'll be the first one to tell you that some of my biggest jump points in my business, when I really grew, a lot of times there was a lot of discomfort, that it was physical, emotional pain to really grow. But you get to, and then you get there, and then you did it. You grew, you got bigger. So it's not all rainbows and pots of gold and unicorns and butterflies. There is pain, and your pain tolerance can almost be a direct you can attribute your pain tolerance to your growth. The more pain you're willing to suffer and go through, I think the more you can grow in this industry. So I love it.
Your pain tolerance is only as big as your goal.
Yes.
I like that.
Love it.
Guys, thanks so much for watching all the way to the end. Whatever platform you might end up watching this on, if you're watching live or the replay on the live stream in the Facebook group, please comment to be entered into Freebie Friday. Also, comment #Team Replay. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe on YouTube, and give us 5-star reviews on all podcast platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts. We appreciate your guys' support. And we'll see you guys on the next one. Here's to your massive success. Appreciate you guys.